Hi, I'm spinning around. Move out of my way. And welcome to... Welcome to Talk Horror to Me, the home of all things horror and all things sarcastic. Today, I'm revisiting an old video that I feel will just be an ongoing series at this point, forever and ever and ever and ever. I'm going to do my makeup whilst I roast upcoming horror releases. As this pandemic kind of seems to be tailing off now, at least where I am in the UK, we have a tentative end date to our current lockdown and also to social distancing restrictions. I don't know about the rest of the world, but a lot of production has restarted. A lot of films that were shelved before the pandemic have been able to get their release date. And as with everything else no one asked for, I have opinions on it. Before we jump into the video, please make sure you are subscribed to the channel. I make videos about horror films and the wider genre as a whole, and I upload one time. Also consider following my other social media. Peep my Insta and my TikTok on the screen now, where I share memes on Instagram and post to my main grid never. Now we're going to jump back to the beginning of this video where I look approximately 12 years old and watch me act like I know what I'm doing in makeup and in life. Let's go. Spoiler warning here, because some of these new films are sequels and I'll probably delve into the first film or the previous entries in the franchise. So if you haven't seen Don't Breathe, any of the Purge films, or Orphan, don't watch this video. Back to Fetus Emily. I should probably go get all of my notes. Hi, please don't be alarmed. Welcome to my prepubescent face. Let's talk about breathing, specifically not breathing. Again, I've already started filming this video, but I have not finished my skincare routine, so yes, and I don't know if it's doing me any favors, but you know, it's new. And The Ordinary told me to get it, so I'm getting it. Does my face look greasy? Good, that's the end goal. YouTubers call it glowy and dewy. I call it greasy. Don't Breathe, which was released in 2016 to very high critical praise, is getting a sequel, due to be released in summer of 2021. I hope you've all seen Don't Breathe, because it's a wonderful horror thriller, directed by Fede Alvarez of the Evil Dead remake and that Girl in the Spider's Web movie. The original film starred Jane Levy and 13 Reasons Why. I loved the first movie. I thought it was action-packed, really, really tense and fucking gross in parts as well. And with films of this nature, where there's a really good runtime throughout the whole thing, it tends to have like a really bad ending. I really enjoyed the 2018, I think, film Cam, starring the weird one from The Handmaid's Tale. I loved that whole film until the ending, where I couldn't make heads or tails of what was going on. Cheapened the whole fucking film for me. But Don't Breathe didn't really have that problem. I thought it was wonderful up until the end. Of course, it was always pointing to a sequel, as the blind man, whose name is Norman, was recovering in hospital at the end of the film. He was always going to be the centre of this next film. And we were right. According to the minimal plot summary we have on Wikipedia right now, it seems that the central figure of this film will actually be Norman Nordstrom, the antagonist from the first film. We don't have a trailer yet that I could find at the time of filming this. I did get sucked into a fan-made trailer that I was like, oh, this is really intense. Oh my God, it's so intense. But then John Krasinski popped up and I realized this is either going to be the best film ever made or it's not real. Dreams really do die hard, like, for real. Nice films really do finish last. In fact, the only confirmed cast member in the movie, according to the Wikipedia page, is Stephen Lang, who plays Norman Nordstrom. But then I realized that other websites do in fact exist, so I took a ride over into uncharted territory. It's very uncommon that I visit IMDb, but I took a peek over there. And it's not just a one-man show starring the blind man, because you know me, I don't really allow other websites to influence my opinions other than Rotten Tomatoes. And that really annoys some of you, which is really funny to me. According to that minimal plot summary, the blind man has, in between the events of the first film and this sequel, the blind man had adopted a young girl who was orphaned by a terrible house fire. And whilst they'd been hiding out for years, away from the terrifying evils of the outside world, you know, understandable. In a cruel twist of fate, the young girl was kidnapped by a group of criminals. So of course, this forces Norman into action, leaving the comfort he's created in their isolation to save his beloved child. Kind of child. Did he abduct her too and she has Stockholm syndrome? We don't know yet. Now, as long as Dylan Minnette is not in this movie, I will assume it's probably not going to be too bad. That's mean, I'm sorry. Poor Dylan. I just feel like they put him in every film possible right at the height of his 13 Reasons Why fame, just because he was Clay from 13 Reasons Why. That's probably not true. I'm sure he's a fine actor. But I just have this reaction whenever he's in a film like, oh, it's the kid from 13 Reasons Why. Which, you know, he is more than that. But I don't know him as any more than that. So anyway, let's move on to the production. I just remembered why I normally do my eyebrows before everything else, because they take 80 fucking years. So Alvarez already knew that there was going to be a sequel in the works as soon as the original title came out. He also said that he had agreed to return as director. I, in fact, did stop filming and restart because I was getting frustrated with my eyebrows. Okay, on to the production. Sam Raimi produced Don't Breathe, who he's a frequent collaborator of Alvarez's, having worked together on the Evil Dead reboot that came out in 2013. And Raimi was quoted as saying, "It's only the best idea for a sequel I've ever heard. I'm not kidding, really. Even better than doing a short version of the original film at the beginning of the second film to subtly, unsubtly rewrite the first film to then make the second film make more sense." Just saying. But jumping forward to November of 2018, Fede Alvarez had confirmed that they had a script ready for Don't Breathe 2. He was conducting a Twitter poll to figure out whether the general public were more interested in seeing a Evil Dead sequel or a Don't Breathe sequel. And he had stated that whilst we don't have the script for Evil Dead, it did gain the most kind of public interest because obviously there's nearly 30-40 years of history and cult following of Evil Dead, so people would obviously be more interested in the Evil Dead sequel. He was kind of hurt by that because obviously Don't Breathe is his own writing and his own invention, whereas the Evil Dead was not. Internal and public assessments of interest obviously favoured an Evil Dead sequel. Fede Alvarez was replaced as director in early 2020, and of course production was marred by the pandemic and did not commence until August of 2020, wrapping in October. It is due for release in mid-August. That's in America, releasing by Sony Pictures, but who knows when we'll get it over here in the UK. But that is Don't Breathe 2. I'm excited to see this one, but I'm not sure whether the story is as amazing as Sam Raimi is hyping it up to be. But I guess we'll see in August. Up next, I'm going to talk about Last Night in Soho. It's an upcoming psychological horror thriller starring Anya Taylor-Joy. The film focuses on a young, aspiring fashion designer who mysteriously enters the 1960s. We don't know how or fucking why, but she mysteriously entered the 1960s. And the 60s in London were not all that they seemed. And time appears to fall apart with shady consequences. So I don't know what the fuck any of that means. There seems to be like an otherworldly aspect to this film. So without knowing much about the film other than what the minimal synopses have explained to us, we can't really gather what the fuck the premise is. And even though it's expected for release in just a few short weeks, I can't fucking find a trailer for it anywhere. It's all the fan-made shit again. Oh, it got delayed again. It was supposed to be an April release. It's now a Halloween release. Ignore me. The film is directed by Edgar Wright, who is one of my absolute favourite filmmakers of all time. He's responsible for the Cornetto trilogy of horror films, horror comedy films, I guess, Shaun of the Dead, Hot Fuzz, and The World's End, as well as one of my favourite films out of the horror genre, Scott Pilgrim vs. the World. He was also responsible for Baby Driver. He was also responsible for Baby Driver, which is another great title. Shame I can't enjoy it anymore. It appears that Last Night in Soho will be quite a big tonal shift for the director, because as much as most of his films are rooted in comedy, they have horror aspects, but I think Last Night in Soho is going to be psychological, straight horror, which I'm very excited to see from a very capable and accomplished director. Won't be in keeping with his normal formula, but we love that. We welcome that. This is sadly going to be the last on-screen appearance by Diana Rigg and Margaret Nolan. They both passed away shortly after filming wrapped towards the end of 2020. Diana Rigg found fame in the TV show The Avengers, as well as playing James Bond's wife on Her Majesty's Secret Service. As well as that, she starred in Game of Thrones later on in her life. Margaret Nolan was a glamour model in her heyday, as well as a visual artist and an accomplished actor. She found fame in the Carry On films, and she had a TV career spanning 20 years. So we'll think of them and their loved ones whilst we are watching Last Night in Soho later on this year. I'm incredibly intrigued by this film. I mean, The marketing leaves you with no other conclusion to draw from it. She mysteriously ends up in the 60s? Okay, well, fucking shit, now I have to know why. It's genius. Let's move into territory I'm less optimistic about. I'm gonna go see it, obviously, but I'm less thrilled about its existence. The Forever Purge is reported to be the final movie in the Purge series, a direct sequel of Election Year, the worst fucking film in that franchise, the one that made no chronological sense. I actually have a whole video detailing my thoughts and opinions on the Purge franchise as a whole. So if you want to hear my opinions on the series as a whole, go check that out. It's to be set after the abolition of the Purge, centered around a couple who find themselves at the mercy of a group of outsiders who have decided to unlawfully continue their right to release the beast. The film's actually been wrapped for well over a year now, obviously running into issues when it came to the pandemic. With people being unable to spend their money on tickets, a lot of productions have shelved themselves, biding their time until the movie-going business opens up again, so as not to take such a financial blow. Hence why the massive film No Time to Die has been sitting around for like over a year as well. If they ain't getting the sweet, sweet opening weekend coin, they ain't releasing it until they can. Obviously. I will obviously be going to see this one regardless. I really believe that the Purge films are some of the most entertaining horror films to come out of the 2010s. You might disagree, and that's fine. But a Purge movie kind of holds a similar weight to me as a new Saw release would. I'm not saying they're as good a films, because they're not, but I get excited when a new Purge film comes out. I know there's only been a few, but I got so fucking pumped when the first Purge came out. It was a whole event. Go to the cinema, fucking obsessed with it. Go and watch it on opening weekend. Go watch it a second time. I loved it. It's kind of a shame that this is going to be the last one in the franchise, because I kind of wanted it to grow into ridiculous territory like Saw has. It's the same kind of entertainment, just with a different backstory. In my humble opinion, which is based on nothing because I have zero knowledge about the film, I think this is going to be comparable to the lull that we experienced in the Saw franchise that came in the forms of Saw 4 and Saw 5. I hope I'm wrong. I'm just skeptical because of how much I loved the first Purge. This is the next one in the release schedule. Will just be the lull. I'm hopeful that the Forever Purge will prove me wrong and be of a similar vein to the first Purge. But realistically, I just think it will be naff. I don't know why. And I'll let you know if I'm wrong. The last film I'm going to touch on, and I mean touch on because it doesn't even have a release date yet, but I'm so unapologetically excited for this film. Oh, I think I've put it on too early. This glue is not even slightly tacky. Oh no. Oh God. It's a bloodbath. Fucking bloodbath. Oh well. I haven't talked about this on my channel before because I know there's quite a lot of differing opinions on this movie. It's either the best thing ever or it's garbage and everyone who does enjoy it is fucking stupid for it. But here we go, I'm putting myself out there. I fucking love The Orphan. Spoilers alert if you have not seen Orphan, because there's a pretty big twist at the end, and if you want to go ahead and watch it before this sequel comes out, I don't want to spoil it for you. Starring Isabel Fuhrman, Vera Farmiga, and Peter Skarsgård, Orphan details the story of a couple who unfortunately lose their unborn baby. Through the grief process, they decide they would like to adopt an older child. She is called Esther, she's 9 years old, and she comes to live with Vera and Peter. After various instances of violence from the 9-year-old Esther, the family realise there's something really, really wrong with their adopted daughter. Yeah, actually, turns out she was a 30-year-old with dwarfism fucking with them. Great. I loved it. I thought Isabel did incredibly at such a young age to pull off the character so well. I think she was only either 11 or 12 when this film was made. Vera was also great as the concerned mother, with her transition from being a doting parent of a damaged child to fuck this tiny woman who's trying to seduce my husband and kill my family. It was great. I remember a lot of people at the time having the opinion that, well, so fucking ridiculous. What a ridiculous twist. Like, that pulled me right out of the film as soon as it happened. Like, that would never happen. Turns out we were wrong. I have not looked into that true crime case too much, but I remember that Kendall Ray did a video detailing what happened, and I have an article. It was a couple from Indiana, and they believed that they had been scammed into adopting a Ukrainian girl who reported that she was 8 years old. But of course, they didn't know her actual age, but they thought that that was because she was an orphan from Ukraine, that it would have been somewhere between 8 and 10 years old. That's how old she looked. But certain primary care physicians that they have seen believe that that's a 30-year-old woman with dwarfism. But they can't definitively prove it. So the couple are now being charged with felony child neglect. She was threatening members of their family. She was hiding her menstrual cycle, obviously kind of trying to pretend that she was younger than she was. But at the bare minimum, doctors have performed bone density tests on Natalia, which was her name, saying that she is at least 14. There's no way that she's 8 to 10. She has to be at least 14. She also had a lot of adult teeth, as well as developments that only happen when you're an adult, when you've gone through puberty. There is a thing called precocious puberty where children can go through their changes anywhere from 2 until the age of puberty. So it just happens a little bit early. So that's a possibility, but also there is a possibility that this is a grown woman pretending to be a child. And no one has any idea where Natalia is now, but the parents are going on trial for felony child neglect. So there's that. So maybe it wasn't so crazy to make a film out of it, you know? But anyway, Orphan is getting a prequel called First Kill. And Isabel Fuhrman is actually going to be reprising her role as Esther. Bear in mind, the original film came out 12 years ago, and Isabel Fuhrman is now 24 years old. So they are using age regressing technology as well as child body doubles for Isabel. I'm wildly excited to see whether it will look really good or it will look like garbage, because I've seen films where they've used this technology. It Chapter 2 required some age regression for the kids because they had grown from being 12 to being 15 over the 2 films. When they had to shoot the portions of the film that is flashback territory, a lot of changes happen between 12 and 15 around that kind of time. So these kids almost look completely different. There were parts of it that were really obvious, and there were parts of it where you really didn't notice anything was different. But again, remember, that's for kids who are supposed to be played down 2 years. This is turning an adult Isabel Fuhrman back into an 11-year-old. Because this is a prequel, so in theory, she should look no different than she did in Orphan. And also with It Chapter 2, it was minimal portions of that film that were child-centered and the kids had to be age regressed. This is going to be the entire runtime that we're going to see Esther, right? In theory. So if it looks but, we're gonna see it for like 90 plus minutes. I wouldn't say Isabel has facially changed a whole lot, but yeah, I'm just skeptical that this isn't going to look but 100% of the time. I'm also pretty excited because Julia Stiles is in this film. I'm a big fan of hers. Also, Save the Last Dance is the best dance film featuring the worst dance performances I've ever seen. And I'm a dancer. I'm allowed to say that. I have to pick a lipstick. I never wear lipstick. I'm always wearing a fucking mask. Nude? Yeah, let's be naked. I mean, that wasn't really roasting anything. I'm actually quite excited for all of these films, and for the most part I think some of them will be genuinely good movies and not just entertaining because they're bad. Let me know of any upcoming horror films that you are excited about seeing in the near future when the world opens up again. Make sure to like the video if you made it this far, and also drop a dancer emoji in the comments below. For the queen of not being able to dance but being heavily featured in a dance film, Julia Stiles. And I don't want to hear any criticism of my love for Save the Last Dance. That's a film that transcends generations. I will die on this hill. But that's it from me today, kids. And I'll be back.